I watched every single Star Wars movie this weekend. I watched this whole Skywalker saga, from The Phantom Menace to The Last Jedi, because frankly, my dear, I love Star Wars, and I have such a huge bias for Star Wars. And the critics have been saying that this movie would be a mess, and honestly, did I doubt Disney? Yeah, I did doubt Disney, because, I didn't think they could do it. I thought Return of the Jedi was a perfect conclusion to the Skywalker saga. And you know what? And then near the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I think they got this. I think this is going to be a good movie. I had my doubts, but I think this is going to be a good movie. Well, I was kind of right. There are not many things that I liked about this movie. And my favorite part of the entire movie was just Palpatine. I thought Palpatine was so cool. I thought he looked so disturbing and creepy. I thought, just having the Emperor back was awesome, man. I thought it was really, really cool. I also really like John Williams' score because, John Williams, he's a madman, okay? Every score he's made for a movie has been good. There are, no exceptions. I honestly cannot think of a bad score he's made. I also really liked Rey in this movie. I was thinking earlier today about how Rey didn't really have any character traits in The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens. She just kind of wanted to do the right thing. That's kind of it. But then during this movie, I was like, okay, Rey actually has kind of a character now. She's been arguing with Poe. She's good friends with Finn. I was like, okay, I get this. That's good. I like that a lot. And I think my favorite scene in the entire movie was when Kylo meets with his father. Spider-Man 2 style, when Peter talked to Uncle Ben in the car. It brought me back to that immediately, and I loved that scene with all my heart. I thought it was so good. And that's kind of all I liked. And I'm just going to jump right on this because I know it pissed a lot of people off. I hate that Rey is the offspring of Palpatine. Disney likes to, not just Disney, everyone, they always like to say how the Star Wars universe is so massive and how there are so many characters, and it really feels like a galaxy. The world building was incredible. It's great. But then you start to realize that literally all of the main characters are related to each other in some way. In The Last Jedi, it's revealed to us that Rey came from nothing. And that's great. Kylo comes from a legacy parents, and he turns out to be a failure. He's a crazy Darksider. That's failure. And then Rey over here comes from absolutely nothing. And she is just like a crazy powerful Jedi. I really like that. You don't need to be someone special, or to come from something special, I should say, to be someone special. Then they're just kind of like, yeah, you know what, Ryan, that's a great idea, but we're just gonna not do that, and then she's just gonna be Palpatine's granddaughter. The way they reveal it to us isn't even good. Think about when Darth Vader revealed to Luke that he was his father. That was done so well. It was a huge reveal, and everyone went nuts. It was great. It was done so well, it made sense for it to be hidden from them. And then when Kylo finds out that Palpatine is Rey's grandfather, he just doesn't tell her. And then she asks why he won't tell her. And then he just says, oh, because I can't. And then about, I think, 5 minutes pass. And then he's like, oh, okay, well, anyway, Palpatine is your grandfather, okay. And then Rey just kind of gets a little freaked out. And then that's kind of the end of that. And then she goes to Octu. And then she talks to Luke. And they put his color balance a little too high, and he's very blue, and I don't like that at all. I did not like Luke in this movie at all. I thought, compared to The Last Jedi, Luke is completely different in this movie, and he doesn't really work for me at all in this movie. And he has one scene, and his hair is really long, and he looks weird. And I don't think I've seen people talk about this complaint. There are absolutely no consequences for anything in this movie at all. So Rey accidentally kills Chewbacca with her lightning hands that she never uses for the rest of the movie. And then the whole gang's like, oh gosh darn it, Chewbacca died, and that's really sad. And then 2 minutes pass, and we find out that Rey just blew up a random ship, and Chewbacca is okay. And then they find out that C-3PO cannot read Sith language, so they erase his entire memory and reprogram him so he can talk in Sith, and it's kind of sad because 3PO's been there for the whole time, and then they go back to the Rebel base, and then he meets R2, and then he just gives him his memory back, and then nothing changes at all. Now, this is my thing. I really don't like to use hyperbole all that much, but I use it all the time. This movie offended me. It offended me, and that sounds ridiculous to say, but this movie offended me. Leia goes out in the worst possible way I could have ever seen Princess Leia going out. Leia is like, okay, I'm gonna do this really cool trick, and then Maz Kanata's like, oh, it will take all of Leia's energy to do this, and then I'm like, oh, okay, she'll probably do like a force projection and confront her son, right? She just kind of says Ben, and then Kylo Ren turns around, and then she just dies. I feel like I honestly fell asleep because that does not sound like something that would happen in a Star Wars movie, but that is exactly what happened. I don't think I would personally be as offended if Carrie Fisher was still alive, but no, you know what? No, this is still extremely offensive to me because Leia did not get enough treatment in the sequels. Leia was completely out of character in all of the sequels. Her attitude was completely gone from the original trilogy. She's just kind of just the old woman wise kind of character, and then she just dies after saying one word to her son. She just dies, and then they have a funeral for her, and then that's kind of it. They don't really mention Leia. Oh yeah, and then she's a Force ghost at the end, which I'm gonna talk about in just a second. So Kylo Ren dies in this movie. Like, he just dies. He just straight up dies. And then, so basically what happens, Palpatine throws Kylo Ren off a big old cliff, and then Kylo Ren climbs back up, and he's like, oh, I'm not dead, but Palpatine's already dead, so he doesn't actually say that to him. I'm just kind of spitballing right now. So Kylo climbs back up, and then, so he grabs Rey, and Rey is dead. I didn't say that Rey dies in this movie, because I did not care at all when it happened. But basically, Kylo Ren kind of cradles Rey, and I was like, oh, wait, oh, okay, never mind, this makes sense. And I thought they were going to kind of parallel Return of the Jedi, where, okay, I know Kylo Ren is not a Sith, but I'm going to call him a Sith because it just makes sense to say this here. So, in Return of the Jedi redeems the Sith, and then the Sith dies after being redeemed. And I was like, okay, that's great storytelling. Thank you, George Lucas. Even though I wasn't born in 1983, but that's not the point. And then in this movie, the Jedi dies, and the Sith kind of holds the Jedi who redeemed him, and then I was like, oh, they're just kind of gonna mirror Return of the Jedi. That's really smart. But no, Kylo Ren just kind of touches Rey for a little while, and then she just comes back to life, and then Kylo Ren kisses Rey, and then he dies. I think the biggest issue with this movie for me is that it just feels like a fan fiction. It does not feel like a studio made this movie. It feels like a hardcore Star Wars fan, a little too hardcore, wrote a fan fiction like 9 years ago, after Return of the Jedi, and then Disney just kind of dug it up on the internet and was like, we're doing this, guys, come on, we're doing this. Seriously, like, come on, you cannot tell me Palpatine just shooting lightning up in the sky, and then all the ships just fall, and then Palpatine's like, and then Palpatine shoots lasers at Rey, and then Rey just kind of says, no you, and then deflects it back at him, and then he just kind of Infinity Wars into absolutely nothing. And then Rey goes home, and then and then she buries the lightsabers on Tatooine, and that's kind of it. And then the movie ends, and I was left in the theater very, very confused. Now, I can't say that I didn't like the movie, because I liked it, but I'm very, very, extremely, I'm so confused on it. This is a movie that I need to rewatch, like, twice, because I think there's a lot of good, but there's also a lot of bad. There's a lot of bad, and there's a lot of good, and I don't know how to feel about this movie yet. I just walked out of it. I'm sure tomorrow I'll have completely different opinions about this movie than I do right now. But as of right now, I am giving The Rise of Skywalker a 5 out of 10 because I don't understand what this film is trying to do. I don't understand what I think about it yet, but this is just my initial thoughts on the Rise of Skywalker.